This is Fraud to Fearless,
where we inspire dreamers to overcome imposter syndrome, embrace their authentic selves, and learn how to harness your brand to build a path to success.
I'm Brooke.
And I'm Hayden, and we're your hosts.
Welcome to the show.
Squad, we're back. We're so back. We're excited to be with you and to record and talk about the topic today. Last time we talked about resumes and how resumes is your ticket to the dance. And today we're going to talk about dancing. So today is, okay, you know, your resume worked. You got the interview. Let's interview and crush it and get that job. And we're really excited because interviews are really tricky to navigate, right, Brooke? Sometimes I feel like I left an interview and I crushed it. I was like, in 30 minutes, they're going to call me and give me the job. And I didn't get it. Or I felt like I bombed it. I either said the wrong thing or I didn't answer the right question. And then they call me and give me the job. And it's like, are you sure? We were looking for different things. Yeah, it's so confusing. And it's really tricky, though, from a candidate, especially if you don't work in HR or you haven't been a manager before and you haven't interviewed. Brooke and I have interviewed. We've interviewed a lot. We've given guidance to a whole bunch of students, early career, mid-career professionals on how to interview, how to navigate interviews, how to prep for them. And so we're going to talk about it today and put it in a podcast.
I'm so excited for this. It is so tricky and it's so hard balancing because with an interview, usually when you're interviewing for something, it can mean a few things. Number one, you're just ready for a change. It's like, I've been in this role. I don't want to do this job anymore. I need to get out. And there's that kind of energy behind it. Or there's I don't have my job. I just went through layoffs, or I'm getting my first job out of the gate. Like, we got to make this happen. Or it could come from a place of like, I'm interested in other things and I'm just feeling it out. Should I make the change? Should I not? So wherever you're at in the reason why you're wanting to go look for another job or interview, we're going to touch on all of these different pieces, how you can nail it while still living in alignment with what you want your life and also with what you want to do in your career.
Yeah, I think that's a healthy perspective because when I was in undergrad, Brooke, my mindset when I would interview is I don't have a say. Like, my opinion doesn't matter. I felt like my mindset was I just need to be who I think this company wants me to be. And I just need to say the things that this company wants me to say. And then in grad school, I learned that it's like, no, wait, I'm interviewing the company too. Like, I have options. I mean, I only got one offer in grad school, but still, like, I could have kept interviewing with companies and have hopefully eventually got another offer to choose from two different companies. And my mindset shifted of, it's not just about the company's opinion. Like, I also need to make sure it's a good fit for me. And so I think we've kind of grounded and introduced the topic, but I also just want to kind of sub-bullet to this, that throughout this topic, I think we're going to talk about two big personas. So if you're interviewing, you have one of two scenarios is happening. Either you are interviewing for a new job, either you're leaving school and trying to get that first job out of college, or you have a current job and you're looking for a change. And so you're trying to get another job at another company that you either know very few people or you may know nobody that works at this new company. So you're a stranger to this company. Or the second persona is you're interviewing for a job internally, of which I've had 7 jobs at Honeywell in 7 years and have a lot of experience interviewing internally for the same company. The interviews look very different. And so Brooke and I are going to walk you through that. But Brooke, why don't you start off and tell us a little bit more about why do interviews even matter?
Yeah. Why do interviews matter? I feel like I love seeing these conversations that pop up on LinkedIn because it's like, The interview system is broken. We're asking all of these random different questions, and how can they actually get a picture of me? And I'm competing against all of these things. It feels like the rat race, and it can be so frustrating. So the trick is, how can I become a master storyteller and really show off who I am? How can I show people the real me in such a short period of time in a way that they can see the skills that I have? And not only that, but in a way that really helps me know if I'm aligned with the job that I'm going to be doing, so that I'm not stuck in a situation where it's like, man, I got to start over. I got to find something else. This is an area of your life that you spend the most time in your job. So let's make sure it's aligned and it feels good. And it starts with having a good interview.
Yeah, 100%. A good interview is you provide background of who you are. You answer their questions, right? So you bring validity to your candidacy for the job, right? You show that you have the skill set or the experience that is needed that qualifies you for the job. And the third big piece is you either get questions answered or have conversation with your interviewer or interviewers, if it's a panel, and you get more information about the company culture, what the fit is like, learn about, is this a new role? Is this a replacement role? Why did the person that was in the role before me leave? Is the team growing, shrinking? What kind of environment is the team in? All of these are great questions. In most cases, the interview is your first impression. It's your first impression of either with a potential new hiring manager at the same company that you're working for, or new leader, or it's your first impression with a brand new company that resume that we just talked about in the last episode, again, got you a ticket to the dance. And now this is your first little bit on the dance floor, right? So it really does matter. Brooke, I think what would be helpful next is let's talk about STAR. Let's go through the STAR framework, because for those of you that don't have a ton of experience with interviews or interviewing, if you take any LinkedIn course or any sort of training, or ask ChatGPT how to interview, which is a great tool that you should all use, I imagine eventually you're going to learn about the STAR framework. And the STAR framework that Brooke will walk through is really a response to behavioral-based questions. The most common way to learn a little bit more about a candidate's validity and experience and skill set in alignment with the job that's open is behavioral-based questions. So tell me about a time when X. You had to use data to make decisions. You had to step in and be a leader in a project when you weren't necessarily the assigned leader. You made a mistake, and how did you overcome that? These are all common interview questions, and the STAR framework is the best way to really, format your response. So Brooke, take us through STAR.
The framework we are going to give you today is going to change the game. And I'll tell you why. Because regardless of the question that they ask you, whatever comes your way, you are going to feel confident that you will have a way to answer it using this framework. And even if you've heard this framework before, stay tuned, because there are going to be little things that you have not heard, little tiny tweaks that are going to change the way that you're telling your story within this framework. So Hayden said the STAR method. I don't know if we can coin this, Hayden, but in grad school, we added a little bit to it. And instead of calling it the STAR framework, we called it the START method. You're going to remember
Brooke and Hayden
this.
flavor, a little Brooke and Hayden flavor on top.
Yes. You're going to remember this because you're going to think, okay, where am I going to start to tell all of the stuff, all of the stories, all of the skills that I have? You start with START.
Love it.
START is an acronym. S is situation. So the purpose of this whole framework is that you want to take the experiences that you've had and you want to wrap them into a beautiful gift. And the person that's listening to you is going to be able to digest what you actually did and understand how it applies to what they're wanting you to do in this new role. We're making it so easy for them, because if they can't understand, if they get lost in your story, and if it's complicated, it's going to go in one ear and out the other. This is going to simplify everything. So, situation. What is the situation? Where were you at? T stands for task. What is the thing that you did? What was happening? Why are you telling me this story, essentially? Now, A stands for action. So this is the meat of the story. What actually is going on? So the most important part, and why we don't stop at STAR, because you just heard situation, task, action, result. The T stands for takeaway. Now, the reason why this is so beautiful is because this is what tells us the whole purpose of the story. Why we're telling you this in the first place. It's like a parable. It's applicable to multiple different situations and scenarios. And as the person listening to your story, I understand what you're trying to communicate with me. So when you're thinking of, like Hayden mentioned in the resume episode that we went through, your top 10 plays, you need to be able to take these top 10 plays, put it into this framework so that other people can easily understand and digest what's actually going on.
The takeaway section I want to double click on, because a common concern I've had from people that I've been giving interview feedback to, and even myself, and Brooke, you can probably relate with this, but okay, Hayden, Brooke, got it. You know, like, you guys want me to have all these perfect stories where there was a situation and a clear task I was given. I am the hero with my action, and then I save the company millions of dollars. But I worked at Starbucks, okay? Like, I worked at Wells Fargo. Like, I just don't have that experience. And that, for me, was where START was created, because when I was going through these interviews, I recognized that, hey, I didn't necessarily have all of these great stories compared to my peers about saving companies millions of dollars, because I was 22 years old. And like, the jobs that I was working were part-time as I was a full-time student. You know what I mean? So it's just like, you have to be realistic with your experience and where you're at in your career. But if you can outline, even though my results maybe aren't the greatest thing in the world, but you can clearly outline, like, this is the situation I was in. Here was generally the task I was given. Here's the action I decided to take. Here was the results. And even if they're not great, here's what I learned from it. Here's how this made me a better employee. And this is why I think I would be a good fit for this company. That T is, it's almost like STAR sets you up for T. Now, you don't have to necessarily do a takeaway every single interview question, but I think that reflecting and having takeaways that help you learn, like, this is how I grew in this experience. It shows reflection, it shows growth mindset, it shows that you're being a leader, and it shows that you want to get better, because none of us are going to arrive, right? When we're interviewing for a job, in most cases, we probably haven't done that job before. So there's going to be some learning. Either we're learning the role, we're learning the company, we're learning the team. And so that takeaway is so, so crucial, that you can show that you can learn when you're in an environment where you don't have all of the answers.
One thing I wanted to share was, with this, I've sat in so many interviews, being the person being interviewed and the person interviewing. And you want to know the top issue that I notice with people who actually understand this framework and they've used it, right? They've practiced it a million times. They're like, I've got my START method down. I've got my top 10 plays. But then they get to the interview and there's one thing that happens that fails them. Can I tell you what that is?
Tell me.
It's the heart piece. So I love this acronym. I think you're going to love it too. Mm-hmm. I call it start with heart. You're going to remember this START framework. But what the heart stands for is bringing out the you and helping the person who's listening to you feel who you are with their heart. So there's so many ways that you can do this, but this is the easiest, quickest way that you will be able to remember how you can be. And this goes back to storytelling, okay? The way that you can get others to feel something with their heart is by using the five senses in your stories. So you think about, what can I see? What can I smell? What do I feel? Think about what does it like touch wise, not just like rough or smooth, but people really connect with emotions like sadness, grief, joy, disappointment, failure, whatever it is. What did you feel? So if you can use these five senses while you're telling your story, your start story, then you're putting me in a place that I can actually understand and visualize what's going on. I'm experiencing it with you. And the reason why this is so effective in interviewing is because when I can sit there and tell you in the most robotic way all of the reasons why I'm the most incredible leader and why I'm such a team player. And here's all the evidences. But if I can get you to feel that with me, you have made up your mind about who I am because I invited you into my story. So that's my top secret tip. Start with heart, because if somebody can experience the story with you, it's going to change the game.
Sprinkling a little heart and charisma, if you will, to the takeaway in the story to give your interviewer, more insight as to what actually happened. It gives you credibility in the story. And I think real quick, let's pivot a little bit. So really these behavioral based questions, start framework, start with heart. This is most common. Again, we talked about the two personas at the beginning. This is most common when we think about persona one, which is you're interviewing for a new company. You're at one company or you're in school and you're interviewing for a company that you don't work for. Real quick insight into interviewing with a current company, which I've done a lot of at Honeywell. So 7 jobs in 7 years. I've interviewed internally a lot. It's very different, I would say. It's not necessarily doing star or behavioral based questions and start frameworks. I would say my big guidance on internal movement interviews is, in most of my experience, Brooke, it's actually been really me interviewing the interviewer, where they've said, honestly, Hayden, look, like we've got 7 years of performance data on you. We know who you are. We've worked together before on a project. I really don't need to know what you've done because I know what you've done. Why do you want this job? Where do you want to go in your career? And why would this job help you get there? That is more what the interview actually looks like. Now, there are some interviews you have to do with new people, like with business leaders and folks that may not know you. But again, it's way less formal. You still need to know your stuff and you need to talk through your experience concisely in this kind of start framework. But it's much less of, hey, tell me about a time, Hayden, when you were a leader. Tell me about a time when you solved a difficult problem. No, it's not that. It's more reflecting on where you want to go, what you've done and how you've made an impact, and how this job can get you there. So for those of you that are struggling, a big tip, Brooke, that I've seen from folks at Honeywell and other companies, that maybe they move up and then they plateau. In general, those folks have struggled to see the big picture of what they've done, right? So they've struggled. That heart piece is missing. And when we think about results, trying to quantify results on why does this matter? Again, why should this be a SportsCenter top 10 play? Was it the bottom of the ninth and there were 2 outs and you caught, a potential home run, like a game-saving catch? Or did you just get an out? Those are 2 very different results. And so if you're in this moment where you're early, mid-career professional, you feel like you've plateaued at the company, don't immediately jump ship, right? Because some of it's timing. Like sometimes it's, look, there's a bigger plan. Whatever you believe, there's a bigger plan for you, a bigger journey for you. And sometimes you need to have a little bit of humility and recognize that maybe right now isn't your time. But I would say if you're trying to make that decision between jumping ship to another company and staying, you have to restart everything. You have to restart your network, restart the tools, new laptop, new phone, new results, new behaviors. Your reputation starts from scratch. It's hard. So really determine if that's best for you. And if you feel like you're just struggling with interviewing, really ask yourself, are you fully grasping how what you've done in your time with that company has really made a difference? And if you don't have that answer, or you have some growth and progress there, talk to some of your allies at that company that can help you work on that. But that's the biggest gap, Brooke, that I've seen from folks interviewing internally that have plateaued and are struggling with interviews internally.
Interviewing can really take a toll on your confidence, because if you are having these interviews and you're not getting the job, many times our thoughts go back to what? There must be something wrong, or I'm not good enough for this role, or like, why? Why is it not working? And so I love that you just grounded us in this element of, look, if you truly have a vision of what you want to do, and it's a bigger picture of like, these are the things that interest me, and I can see myself doing this job, and I really want to do it. Maybe I don't know if I can, but I want to. And like you just mentioned, you have the desire, you're considering all of the different options of what that is. Trust God, your higher power, whatever it is, that your timing, the skills, the things that you need to do. Honestly, I've done this so many times, Hayden, where I've just prayed and I'm like, this is the thing that I want to do. I love public speaking. I love development. I really want to have a job like this. Will you please put the people in my life and in my path that I need to know, and the experiences that I need to have to prepare me to be able to do that, or to find those roles and figure out how to communicate what I'm wanting in the way that I want. And the path is created. Like, don't give up. If you feel like, man, it's been so long, I've got to get this job or whatever it is, don't give up. Don't let it shoot your confidence.
Yeah.
It might not be your time, but keep going. Like, you'll find that job. You're meant and designed to have joy and fulfillment in your life, and you'll find it.
Either you'll apply to something and not get the interview, or you'll interview and not get the job. Again, when we started at the beginning, your goal as an interviewee is not to just be whatever the company's looking for. Your goal is to say, this is who I am. This is what I bring to the table. This is why I think it would be a good fit. But you tell me more about this role and the team and the culture, and let's see if this will be a good fit. Because if you get every single job offer that you apply for and half of them are bad fits, huge waste of your time. And I think one thing I love, Brooke, that you just said was your brand. I love public speaking. I love talent development. I want to do that in my job. Another huge thing that I've seen, and as we look to wrap it up here, our second episode, we talked about brand. And a big thing I've seen from college students and early career professionals is, again, I've talked about this in a previous episode, but I've interviewed hundreds of roles, maybe even more. And generally every time I ask at the end of the interview, I say, what are the top 3 to 4 things you want me to remember about you? Give me the Hayden promise in 3 to 4 short bullets. And there's no right answer, right? It's, do you know who you are? What's your brand? And Brooke, what's amazing about that answer is so often those answers are not anywhere to be found in the interview. If you're a data person and you're interviewing for a role where data is so valuable, and you don't spend one bullet point or one story in an interview talking about how you've used data to make a decision, that's like LeBron James saying that, like not talking about his basketball career. And like, look, I'm sure he's done amazing things in philanthropy and brand ambassadors, blah, 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 but he's a pretty good basketball player, so you should probably talk about it. And so it's your brand, those 3 to 4 things that of who you are that you would say if you were in an elevator with a celebrity or a CEO of a company of like, who are you? Like, what are you good at? If those 3 to 4 things aren't woven in Brooke's red thread through your interview stories, then you need to reflect on that and change your top stories to incorporate your brand. Because if we spend 30 minutes interviewing you and then we ask you at the end what your brand is, and those are 2 different things, it's like, who are we hiring here? Are we hiring this brand, or are we hiring your stories that you just regurgitated in some star Excel template to answer our questions? Again, it goes back to what Brooke was saying, that we need heart. We need heart and reflection on who you are and how you can make a difference to really feel comfortable giving you a job. Brooke, people don't understand hiring decisions is a big deal. When you hire someone to start in a role and they're going to be there for 5 years, I just spent $500,000 on that person. I just spent $500,000 minimum of company's money making that hiring decision. Like, this is a big deal, and that's entry level. If I do some of these other jobs, these are multi-million-dollar decisions. People say, oh, HR is just in filling out paperwork. No, we're making millions and millions of dollars of decisions on the talent that we bring in to go and like push the company's values and mission statement forward and drive results. So it's like, we want to feel confident in those hiring decisions. So we need these interviews to be reflective, to have heart, to have takeaways. Otherwise, we're just not going to feel good about giving the offer.
I would just end with saying, have courage. It is so scary to go into an interview when you're like, I really need to get this job. And you're so afraid to show that true self.
Yep.
I will promise you that the more authentic you can be, the just blunt, straight up, this is who I am, putting it all out on the field, right? This is who I am, will help you win so much more than the other way around, trying to guess what they want. Be yourself, even to the point where you think, man, I don't know if they're going to hire me. And we don't have time, but I have so many stories to share of when I did that, that's when they saw the fit because of that, because I was unapologetically myself, professional with a personality.
Nobody has your experience or background or community. No one else in the world is the same as you. So be you, because that's what people want. It may take some struggles and challenges finding who those people are, but you're only going to get there faster if you are. So be you. We love y'all. Hope this was helpful. Give us some feedback. Let us know if you're struggling with any interview questions. But for now, y'all, that's the pod.